Well, hi everyone. This is Toni Weel on another beautiful Thursday at noon. For I think this is 107 that we've been doing these podcasts. Usually we're here with Sarah, but Sarah had to go to a funeral for a family member, so it's not a great day for her to have to go through that. She lost a few family members, which is very sad. And my heart goes out to her and her family to get her through, and the family member, her loved ones, get her through this day. But we have Katie with us. Katie has been with us before. And Katie was the one who always had a ton of questions. It's been lately, it's been a little bit quiet with her questions, but I think she got them all answered and she figured it all out, which is actually quite interesting. And we have a guest with us, Cairenn. And Cairenn, I saw Cairenn answering questions in the Dr. Morse fans group, and they were always so on point and so in depth, and it was like she really answered the questions very, very good. And I was like, I have to get in touch with this woman and learn more about it. So it's been a while since I already asked her, but she agreed, finally agreed to be with us today. She is now a level one Dr. Morse a graduate, and it's I'm very happy to have her here with me. And we started talking yesterday, or in chat actually, about struggles that people have, why they don't start or don't keep doing what they need to do. And oh my gosh, do I know about the struggles we can have. I mean, I have them constantly. I got sick 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned that on the podcast 2 weeks ago on a Thursday. I was kind of off. I was like, my mind was not all there. And but I was in so much pain, and my only resolution at that point was stop eating. Just stop eating. Only eat, only drink water. So I did. I drank water for 8 days, and I think it is day 6 or 7, day 7 now that I'm on only fruit juices. And do I feel great? Not only that, all that pain that came from, I suspect, pancreas and well, the whole GI tract actually, and it got me worried. It really, like everyone, it's like what it can be, what caused it, because yeah, I haven't been sticking to what I should be eating, and my body was loud and clear, like, well, you better listen or it's just going to be worse. So yeah, I know the struggles and overcoming them, but I'm happy to say I feel 100% better. And I see things healing even only after 2 weeks that had been lingering like for quite some time. Now, I mentioned before, I do have kidney issues that I had since I was well, I knew about it since I was in my early 20s and long time ago. And so, yeah, the kidneys are not filtering as great as we would like to see, but it all still working. It's probably why I'm still here. But I saw my skin improving, and that is a big thing because I had very, very severe psoriasis, and what is the word? Arthritis that comes with it, and the heart issues. So I'm happy to say that I see huge progress. So I seem to stick only 3 weeks to whatever I'm doing. And then it's like, well, I would like to have something hot. It's like, Toni, just go drink some tea if necessary. Hot water works. But yeah, I feel very confident this time that I can keep doing it and take all the hurdles as they come one by one. And yeah, I'm very happy about it. And that is another thing, is that when you start when you don't feel well, you know, and you feel guilty because you didn't stick to what you were supposed to do, you get into like a downward spiral, like feeling depressed and not feeling no energy and not wanting to do anything. And now I'm like, my gosh, my energy is going through the roof. I see all kinds of projects around me and on my computer. And so it's the way it works, it's always amazing. But yeah, we'll take those hurdles one by one. But we're going to talk more about it because I know Katie has her share, Cairenn has her share, and also probably for herself in for working already with some people. And so, Cairenn, please tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you find Dr. Morse? How did you realize what you could do to improve your health?
Well, as, as I had mentioned when we were chatting before you started the podcast, that I had had some health issues along the way. I'd always considered myself healthy. I was strong and had a good constitution and good, strong inherited genetic strengths. But a few things had happened along the way that it wasn't obvious that it was food related. And the different episodes I'd had in my life seemed unrelated. It turned out that they weren't. But when I went to doctors, whether a medical doctor or a holistic practitioner, what I was getting was either the offer of a medication to manage a symptom, or I was getting tied into a practitioner where I was going every couple of weeks, and I ended up like everybody else that was seeing him and similar people like him, bags and bags of supplements. And as long as I continued to go, I improved, or, I felt better. Symptoms went away. But if I stopped going, then I I went backwards. And the issue I had with that, it was a terribly expensive. And it never got down to me understanding what the underlying cause of my health condition was. And that's what I was looking for. I wasn't looking to manage it, whether with drugs, pharmaceuticals, or with herbs. I didn't want to manage it. I wanted to heal it. And the first inkling that I had that it was dietary related was that I was seeing this one practitioner, and he really helped me in a lot of ways. But I developed gouty arthritis, and I'm thinking, why am I taking all of these herbs? I'm doing everything he recommends, and I end up with gouty arthritis in my little finger. And I could see it was distorting the joint, and it was excruciatingly painful. And so I stopped kind of following his recommendations, and that's when I started doing my own research. Well, I did reverse that, and I can't even tell you to this day how I did it. I was just throwing everything at it, cherry juice, cranberry, everything I could, think of, reducing my meat consumption and all that. But it did go away. Then many years later, I thought I was having a recurring pain from an old sports injury. But it turned out that when I went to the doctor, he diagnosed me with rheumatoid arthritis. And the default setting in almost any medical situation is that they offer you drugs to manage the situation. And I didn't want the drugs because I didn't want the side effects, and I wanted to know why I developed it in the first place. So I went back to the gouty arthritis and, thinking something must be wrong. but with what I'm doing, I just don't know what it is. So the rheumatoid arthritis progressed to where it was hindering my job. I worked at the time in my background had been in research, but because of the downturn, the economic downturn in 2008-9, the industry I was in, the architectural industry, kind of flatlined for a few years. And I ended up working with a health food chain in as a corporate merchandiser and educator, and working with the stores and a lot of our suppliers, learning a lot about health food. And that's one of the reasons why I thought I had, a very clean, organic diet. But anyway, I got to the point where I was in so much pain. It was just horrible just to try to even lower myself into my office chair. And I wasn't sleeping well, and everything was on fire. And I was in the store one day helping this guy. We were doing a new store opening, and I was down there and I was helping this guy find an herbal supplement that he wanted. And he told me his wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. They were both veterans, and she would have gotten free chemo treatment and everything at the VA hospital, and she turned it down. And so he told me about Dr. Morse. And so just like everybody else that finds him, you go get on your computer on YouTube and you binge watch, videos until you begin to understand what's going on. And I realized, it was diet. So I cut out meat, which wasn't really high for me, but I cut out all dairy, and I went on a transitional diet. And that's how I started my healing journey. And I learned a lot during that time, because I actually healed on the transitional diet. My rheumatoid wasn't so bad that I had disfigurement in my joints and bones and that sort of thing. So it was just by eliminating acids and making my body more alkaline that my body started to heal. And so, like I said, that's how I found him and where I started.
So you have improvement with your arthritis too.
I completely reversed the rheumatoid arthritis.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's gone.
And
Yeah, I
even
still have a genetic predisposition to it that I have to,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, for me it was the psoriasis that seems to run in both sides of the family. And but no one had it. For me, I got to break out after the vaccinations for immigration.
Oh,
That is where, and a part of that was polio, and I already had the polio vaccinations. There was no reason to repeat it. But this was in 2000, and I did not know. I knew I didn't like it, but didn't think much about it, about the health impact it could have. And yeah, but that is when those things started to come out, plus a lot of stress in that at that time. So I'm happy to hear that you completely reversed it. My joints, and I could say pretty much all my joints already were very affected by yeah, the arthritis, and it is disfigured. My fingers, elbows, you can see it in the toes. You cannot stretch the knees. And but the first thing that I noticed was the pain goes away. It doesn't feel like you're on fire, because
yes.
that was actually exactly how it felt. The body is on fire, but it is yeah, gosh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that about you. It's and now I'm thinking about the title we gave this, the struggle on our healing journeys. Tell what struggle did you have, Cairenn? Tell me. Tell us.
It was primarily the idea that I had a healthy lifestyle. I exercised. I ate a clean diet. I wasn't eating at fast food restaurants. I was eating a lot of junk. Um, I was eating organic, and I didn't understand about acid alkaline diets, and also in my teens, when I was in high school, I started having seizures, and I had those for 10 years. Um, and looking back, those were related to acidosis as well. But there was no way that I was going to associate seizures that had healed, and they gave me a reason why I was having them. Um, and the gouty arthritis and eventually the rheumatoid arthritis, with a long gap of time in between, seemingly being perfectly healthy. So it was like I mentioned, when we were previously talking, it was not evident what was wrong. So, I go to a doctor, and I'd had the only other symptom I'd had in that time period is I went through a few weeks where I was really nauseous, and turning the corner in my car it felt like, nothing was burning. It just felt like I could feel a shift, and I didn't know really what was wrong. I don't know if I had a parasite or just what it was, but I kept going to the doctors, and they kept running tests, and they kept telling me I was fine. And then when I got into uh, a situation with my late husband, he went to the hospital, and I was perfectly fine. And it was New Year's Eve. We were in the emergency room all night. And the next morning, I woke up with full blown pneumonia, and it was a holiday weekend. And a friend of mine took me to her holistic practitioner the next Tuesday when he opened. And that's when I started a little bit more in earnest with herbs and supplements. But that's when I realized I was still tied into another management system, and I wanted to know what was causing all this. And it took a long time, because I wasn't stumbling across anybody uh, who could tell me, and I just had to persist. And this was a good 10 years, before, or a little bit longer actually, before I ever ran across Dr. Morse and started getting oriented toward an alkaline diet. And then the other barrier, or the other complicating factor, was is I kept running across all these different types of practitioners at that point that were seemingly doing different things, different diets, different types of supplements. And so I put my research hat on, because that's, like I said, what I did for a career. And one of the things about doing research, whether it's for marketing or competitive intelligence or new product development or whatever, or a situation in a marketplace, people would come to me, the consultants or the companies that I worked with, and I worked with all manner of companies, all different sizes, domestic, international, and all different types of companies in that industry. But when you start doing research, there's a point where you discover that there's a story that goes with that problem or issue, or whatever. And once you discover the story, then you can find the solution. And I knew how to find the story. So I started looking at all these different people that were seemingly different, um, and trying to figure out why this person healed, but they were a little bit different from this person, a little bit different from this person, because I had this idea that there was very narrow point that I had to exist in order to heal. And really the common denominator to all these people was the alkaline diet. And there's different ways to go about an alkaline diet, and doing it, implementing an alkaline diet, I think really depends on the severity of the health situation of the person is having and the individual themselves, because not everybody's immediately open to diet changes because it's so socially and culturally ingrained in us. We grew up with our comfort foods, and it's such a part of everything we do. So, so that was a barrier. There was a lot of conflicting information out there. And I had to overcome that and try to get down to what was the underlying common denominator.
Yeah, and that is still what we are fighting today with a lot of people. You've seen it in the Dr. Morse related Facebook groups. And I had an related to that, I had a question, and we've been in the groups, we've been saying so many times about, you know, the fermented food is not natural food. And so I got a question as to why no fermented food. And I'll let you, before Katie, I didn't forget about you. Before we get to you, I would like Cairenn to dive into this fermented food part, because I'm sure she has something to say about that.
Well, maybe not as much as you might think. And that's a tricky one, because as you know, I recently just went through implant dental surgery, and I just finished up literally on Tuesday this week. So I'm still not adjusted to the feel of the changes in my mouth. And that's one of the reasons I was hesitant to come on the show for so long, is because I was not able to speak clearly at all. And then this week, you know, I haven't adjusted yet. So I wasn't really certain how clearly, you know, I could speak. But I did a lot of research. I contacted Dr. Morse's specialist at his clinic. And because going into, you know, someone drilling into your jaw, you know, and the level of infection that I'd had for so long, and I could keep it in check, but I wasn't able to completely overcome it. And I was getting to the point where I was having to do something. I mean, you know, I was losing my teeth anyway. So, but I had to make decisions about how I was going to manage infection, you know, with the surgeries. And finally, someone in Dr. Morse's clinic said, you know, maybe you should just do the antibiotic and then recover that later. And so I've been using a probiotic for that, because I knew it was going to take a lot of raw fruit. And for a period of time after the surgery, I wasn't, you know, I could juice, but I wasn't really able to consume the quantity for a period of time. And my need was immediate. So you know, I found a plant-based, I'm entirely plant-based now, yogurt, coconut yogurt that was a really high probiotic, and I used that. And so that, you know, technically that's a fermented food. And that was the most accessible to me, because sauerkrauts and that kind of thing, I mean, I couldn't chew it, so it didn't do you any good if you can't chew your food. Um, and so, you know, it's just like everything else. I'm not against medical intervention. I'm really, in some cases, not against medications. I'm really big on herbs and that sort of thing. But when it comes to things like fermented foods, in my situation, it was a stopgap to get me down the road, to keep me healthy. So when this was completed, then I would be in a better position to chew my food, improve my digestion. And with the infection gone, it has dramatically improved my health. And so I think there's a time and a place. And I think that's just part of the journey. And when you're working with people too, understanding where they are, understanding their background, their needs, their fears, their desires, what they're willing to change, what they're not willing to change, and how fast, and all of that. And so, there's a time and a place for it. As a regular part of the diet, Dr. Morse doesn't support it. I know other people who do. They support some cultured foods, but not fermented foods, and they make a distinction between the two. So I'm still sorting that out.
Well, what I learned, and I learned that actually from Dr. Morse and Lauren Whiteman, she wrote a lot about fermented food. No matter how you look at it, it is rotted food, and there is no need for it in the body. Now, you mentioned the antibiotics, and I have been in a very, very scary situation. This is 11 years ago now, and it was yeah, I call it winter time, but I'm in Florida. How can I call it winter? But I started having pain behind my ear. This was way before Dr. Morse, and and it started to get bigger and bigger, and the pain was horrible. So I never go to doctors. I never take medication. I was against medication 50 years ago, so that didn't change. I have been on some medication because I was in the hospital with a heart attack and they put you on stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
was in the hospital with a broken femur and they had to replace part of the hip. So they put stuff in your IV that you don't even know about, and it almost killed me because with the what is it with the heart attack, they gave me Coumadin. Well, it's rat poison, and I was bleeding out of every pore in my body. It was horrible.
Wow.
But to go back to that pain that I had behind my right ear, that is a lymph node. And it got to a point that after, I think, 3, 4 weeks, it was the size of a grapefruit. I could put my whole hand around it, and it's crazy. I knew of a holistic doctor, and so I went to him. He had a practice together with his son, and he looked at it, and he was like, "Yeah, you have to go on antibiotics." And I was like, well, I'm not a fan of it, but what else can be done? No, you have to go on antibiotics. And he told me that if I wouldn't, I had only 25% to survive. Now, it's although you kind of don't believe those numbers, and it's like it's crazy to say something, and it may go away by itself, and well, he asked his son for a second opinion, and the guy said the same thing. So they put me on antibiotics. I reluctantly took it. I had to take it for months. They had to try different varieties because it wasn't working. Eventually, it did go away. Now, you can always wonder, would it have gone away without it? And it definitely damaged my GI tract, but I did a very strong detox, Dr. Schultz detox, right after that. So maybe that helped me out with all the junk that was now in my body. But it went away, and I still wonder if I would have, but I didn't know that then. Now I
Yeah.
would, if I have something like that, I would go on a water fast. That is the first thing I do. And if after 2 weeks, it wouldn't come out, I would probably use black salve. That's another thing. But only the ones that I bought actually from Dr. Morse. I think it's Dr. Christopher who was making and selling that. And Dr. Morse used to sell that a few years ago at his clinic. but you always wonder, it's like, what would have happened if, but at that point, I didn't know about Dr. Morse. I didn't know about the healing aspects of water fasting. I had water fasted in my 20s for 5 weeks, 35 days to lose weight. That was the only thing that I cared about, was losing weight. And yeah, I lost weight the first 2 weeks, nothing in the second week, and in the third and fourth week, I started gaining weight. So that's when I stopped. It's like, well, that's not working either. And I knew from back to my childhood and teens, I had a thyroid issue. So when I did that water fasting, yeah, I was actually, improving my thyroid to work better. But anyway, it is people. You took the yogurt, and I used to make my own yogurt from coconut milk, and I stopped doing that because what people are doing is they taking it on a regular base. It's like a treatment, and it's like food, but that means that you are putting rotted food in your diet, in your body every day. See, I can see when you do it for a short period of time yeah, that's the same as when people use glandulars. You only do it for a short period of time. But
Yeah.
I've even seen people who do what is it, the herbs, Dr. Morse's herbs, for years. Not 3 4 months and then stop and reevaluate, and no, going back to what they used to eat, but still keeping the herbs in and expecting that it all works. And then we come to the point is we still do not understand our body. We still do not understand, why do we have bacteria in our body. The bacteria are not the cause of the problems. And the cause of the problem that I had with that, well, I don't know if it was a cyst, because I didn't want them to drain it. I had a cyst on my thyroid. They call that a multinodule cyst, and they drained it. Well, within a week it was all back. And then I was told I had thyroid cancer, and then I was told I did not. And then they told me I had to come back every 6 months, have it checked, because it could be thyroid cancer. And that was when I said, no more, ever again. Not going there anymore. And it was every time I have high stress or I don't eat well. And not eating well for me is still a vegan diet, but it could be a cooked vegan meal. My body doesn't want it. It's very clear about it. I get in trouble if I do.
Yeah.
I can eat a beautiful soup made from all kinds of greens, and within 2 hours I'm in pain. So my body is very, very clear, like, no, that's not for you. And but with that cyst on my thyroid, it went away. But when I'm under high stress and I'm worried, and I can be worried about my health, and then it does come back. I can feel it. But it had been so bad that I lost my voice. They told me they couldn't do any surgery on it. But yeah, of course, they wanted me on all kinds of medication, and I always refused. So it is, yeah, but still, I wonder with that, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it was a cyst or it was just a very, very swollen lymph node, but it went away. And
Yeah.
if I would get it now, I would go on a water fast. I would not do the antibiotics. But
Yeah.
going back to the fermented food, the yogurts, the kombuchas, what is it, the sauerkraut, all that stuff, your body does not need it. It's not good for you.
Well, let me jump in here first. When I mentioned that when my husband was in the emergency room, that I woke up the next morning from stress with full blown pneumonia. When I went to the holistic practitioner the following Tuesday, um, he put me on herbs. And then pneumonia went away, basically all symptoms that I had in 3 days on the herbs. I didn't take antibiotics for that. We overuse antibiotics, and have been, and the medical industry knows that. A lot of practitioners are being very cautious and are very reserved about prescribing them, but not all of them are, and they're very damaging to the body. And some people may be able to recover their gut microbiome, in time, but a lot of people, I don't think they do. I don't think it ever really comes back entirely. That comes down to the individual, because everybody's different, their history's different, their psychology, their mental state, and there's so many things that are different, that it's really important for the individuals to start listening to their body, seeing what they respond positively to and what they don't, and react accordingly. Because one person, you know how your body works, and that's huge to understand that. But someone else may not have exactly the same positive results, from it, or they might need to do it for a shorter period of time, or they need to do it for a longer time. You don't know. One of the people that I've been working with since last June is a lupus patient, and she's in a country with socialized medicine, and she started having lupus symptoms back in 2021. And in my mind, an ideal health system would first make dietary changes to see, because diet and the food that you're putting in your body is everything. If you create the right conditions in your body will heal itself. But that's not the prevailing thought. So she ended up on steroids, and steroids are, I've never personally had experience with them, taking them. The only experience I had before I met this person, through one of the Facebook, Dr. Morse Facebook groups, was my dog. And she'd had hip dysplasia, and the vet gave her a shot of steroids. And that poor dog went into an anxiety state, and she whined and howled all night long until that left her body. And as soon as it left her body, I knew it had, because she went back to the same sweet tempered, happy dog she was before. So when I encountered this woman on the lupus, and she'd been on steroids for so long, that caused massive anxiety. And of course, then they put her on anxiety medication. So the steroids are addictive, the anxiety medication is addictive. So, she'd wake up every morning with this roaring panic and fear and anxiety, and it was debilitating her to the point where she wasn't even getting out of bed for periods of time, and wasn't functioning. And has a family and a son. And then she's not sleeping. So they put her on sleep medication, and then she's out of her mind from the steroids and anxiety and the sleep medication and some other things they had her on. So they put her on an antipsychotic. How wonderful is that? So she ends up with this huge cocktail. And so, to her credit, she wanted to learn. She wanted to understand her body, how it reacted to things. The problem with all of this cocktail was it was really hard for her to remember. She'd lose periods of time about, okay, what happened when I took that last time and everything. So what I've been doing with her is I've been serving kind of as a reminder about things. This is what happened last time when you tapered off your drugs too fast, and things like that. But she's got a really good head on her shoulder, and she's really worked hard. And there was a point where her perspective changed on things, and she was seeing what was happening. She developed a kind of a morbid sense of humor about how the doctors were treating her. She began to be more insistent that the doctors taper her off the drugs, get her off these steroids, but you can't just stop them. You've got to taper off. And so she's been in this process of learning in this state, in this medicated state, in this addictive state, how her body reacts to certain foods and certain diets and different patterns of things and how long to do something and when to stop and take. She's been taking Dr. Morse herbs for support for the adrenals and kidneys and all of this. And she's seeing improvement. Her lupus blood markers went down from 2,000 to 700, which is a massive drop. 0 to 7 would be a normal person without lupus symptoms. So she's had a massive drop. She's gotten off all of her medications that were non-addictive. And now she's learning how her body responds. She recently tapered on a drug too quickly. She had a backlash. The anxiety came back. And so now she's figuring that just because I go back up on my medication, my body just doesn't go back to the way it was before I dropped. So she's figuring out her body. And you were talking earlier about some of the challenges and some of the barriers is we're not all in the same situation. And we maybe end up there unwittingly, but you have to figure out what works for you. And that is a huge challenge. And it's a big barrier to overcome. And as a detox coach, I'm a plant-based chef and a holistic health coach is that I'm not a doctor. I don't know these medications. I don't know what the contraindications are and what, when you mix all these drugs together, you end up with a new drug, so what is it this person's really taking? And this was one of my first experiences coaching someone right after getting my certification. And I wasn't sure I was up for it. And a lot of times I was just over my head. The most I could do is just kind of online at a great distance, hold her hand and try to serve as her memory. And she's making progress. She's making really good progress. But it taught me a lot about different situations, different bodies, different reactions. And we have to adjust to that and go at the speed that we can go at. And, hopefully we'll get to a place where we're not on those drugs and we do understand our body. And then we can manage with food and different detox methods like water fasting or juice fasting or whatever. We have tools at our disposal that work. And that's off topic, and I'm sorry about that, but it's a big ball of wax, and
It is, that is what I always say. The most important part about this whole journey is learning how your body responds to things. And the transitioning for me, I think you could say it was like a year and a half because that was the time I was following anything and everything medical medium. And but realizing I got actually sicker and sicker and on my raw vegan diet, not realizing, and I learned that from Dr. Morse, was the high fats from the nuts and the seeds. Because I love to create dishes. So I figured out a lot of beautiful and I was thinking very healthy dishes, but not for me anymore. And so I could not stay on that path. So with I think the start would be realizing that you need to change something. What your client, the person that you interact with, is doing is absolutely amazing. I mean, kudos to her. And to you, to get her to that point. And that is actually, we are like a tour guide, helping people from the points where they are at. There is no one. It is easy to say, you know, Dr. Morse says, and actually, when it comes to it, it's true. You know, fruit, berries, melons. End of story. But you know, to get there, that is easier said than done. I think from the many hundreds of people that I spoke with, there is maybe a handful who could actually do that from what they were doing going into the fruit, berries, and melons. Yeah, you know, you could say after a year they had absolutely amazing results from reversing MS and actually also one reversing lupus. But I wasn't able to do that, and I don't know if I would come from my. I was already, I mean, always organic, always into herbs and reading labels, you know, no chemicals. So I was thinking I was doing pretty good, but I was eating cooked food. And so going on a raw food diet, and that was not even medical medium's diet, because there's a lot of cooked food in it and a lot of potatoes. And I love potatoes with these beautiful garlic sauces made from nuts. So it was not going well for me. So I had to get off that cooked food part. So I already did, and then with Dr. Morse, I got off the nuts and the seeds, the high fats and proteins. You know, I added plant proteins to my diet. And leaving that out, you know, I could starting to heal. Could start to heal. Come on, Toni, correct English. I'm doing my best. But yes, we have to meet every person at the level they are at. And so for me, every conversation I have with people is completely different. And I think I took Katie a long time ago when I just started out on this journey. And what she just mentioned too, you know, you have people around you who are not on that level, who are not interested, who think it's crazy and love their steak or whatever it is, way too much to give it up. And you still try to do your best. And Katie, can you talk a bit about you know, how it has been working for you?
Well, sure, I would love to. Well, so I've been on this journey now, it'll be, I think, 4 years. And, I just keep getting better every day. But I do have my struggles. And so I was in the chat. Cairenn, I don't know if you can see the chat. So I was asking those who in the chat, what challenges or difficulties have you experienced? Like the one that is the most difficult. And a lot of the people, of course, said, just getting that organic food, getting good quality food. And I said, oh, yeah, that's the same way. I live in South Dakota, and my husband and I went to Arizona a couple weekends ago. And so we were eating, basically farm to fork fruits and vegetables. I had like the best watermelon, best oranges, and you could see and taste the difference. And then when we came back home, now all of a sudden my husband's like, I might want to move to a place where we can have farm to fork fresh fruits and vegetables. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. But it has been a journey because he has not been on that mindset. And, he was willing to give up animal products, although he gave up like the meat, but then he would still eat eggs and cheese. And then finally he gave up the eggs, and then finally he gave up the cheese. And he still likes cooked foods and processed foods and some other things. So anyways, and then I have two children, but now they are both out of the house. They are in college now. And so even when they were home, they just thought, Mom, what are you doing? This is crazy. My son has seizures too, Cairenn. So I was fascinated when you said that you had seizures in high school, because my son all of a sudden started having grand mal seizures when he was in high school. And we were like, wait, what? And so I was trying to help him. And I was like, this doesn't make sense to be taking an anti-seizure medicine every single day when we haven't had seizures. There's got to be a better way. And so I mean, we were doing the anti-seizure medicine because that's what we did first. And then I started questioning things. And then I went, you talked about rheumatoid arthritis. I had symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis as well, back in 2000. And I remember praying to God saying, you know, if this is how it's going to be, because at that time I was maybe about 20 years old. And so I said, God, if this is how it's going to be for the rest of my life, I'm going to surrender my life to you because this is too much. It's so painful. And, you know, I can't even dress myself. I can't walk, you know. So I just said, it's in your hands. You can take my life. And I felt a presence crawl into bed with me when I said that prayer to him and hold me tight. And it was the first time in months that I slept, and I slept for 24 hours. And at that time, I was staying with my friend's house. And then when we went back to my apartment, when she took me to my apartment, on the voicemail was a doctor in Arizona who is a homeopath doctor. And he said, I've heard your story and I think I can help you. And so he wasn't like, he was kind of on the right path of Dr. Morse, but not all the way. So his name was Dr. Alan Ketover. He's no longer practicing. He just retired this past year. But so he was like the stepping stone that got me thinking about alternative medicines and things like that. And but of course, you know, you're 20 and you're young, and then, you know, you kind of hear the knowledge when you're there and you're going through it. But then once you get healed, you kind of forget the knowledge, and, you know, you get married and you're trying to compromise with your new spouse. And so then you do things that you probably wouldn't have done if you remembered your learning. And anyway, so then when these seizures came and I started questioning things, I was like, okay, we're going to go back to Dr. Ketover. And then so we're back in Dr. Ketover, and I'm like, you know, I know this works, but eating meat, dairy, and eggs does not align with me right now. When I look at scriptures and when I look at the human anatomy, this just doesn't make sense to me. And so then I found Toni, I found Dr. Morse and everything like that. So that's how that all came to be. And so it's just been a process of educating those who you love the most, about what is the truth and how our bodies work and things like that. And of course, you know, it's hard when they're older because they're like, wait, Mom, you raised us this way, and now you want us to completely do a 180 or a 360. And I'm like, yeah, sorry. Anyway, so it's been a little bit of a challenge, and I just recognize that everybody is on their own journey. And like Sarah, who usually co-hosts this show, everyone deserves their own resurrection, just like I had my resurrection. I've also this week, and I'm so excited to share this with you because Cairenn, you even mentioned it when you were talking about when you're helping others, you don't know their history or what, what did they come into the world with because of their hereditary and their genetics and things like that, and what have they been exposed to in their lifetime. But you also mentioned, what is the thought process? What kind of conversations are they having with themselves? Because that has a huge effect on our bodies. And I don't know if, I know people know that what you say is not, you have to be aware of it, but I'm not sure if they truly realize how important it is to control your negative thoughts. And I saw a little science experiment this week, where they have 2 jars and they filled it with white rice. And in one jar of white rice, they would say all these loving things. I love you. I appreciate you. You're beautiful. You know, whatever. I'm grateful for you. Okay. And then on the other jar, they would say negative things like, you know, whatever kind of lies that they want to say. I don't like you. I hate you. Whatever. Well, so, and I almost want to do this on Facebook to show people this. Well, by day 19, that the white the rice that was in the jar, that where you said loving things, kind things, it looked the same. It looked like you could just dig in and eat it, although we know not to do that. But it looked white and it looked beautiful and lovely. But then the other jar, it had mold on it. It just looked gross, and it was green and brown and things. You wouldn't want to eat it at all. And that was just 19 days. I mean, you could start seeing it get obviously moldy, but it was just fascinating to watch that each day and how the rice changes. And I'm like, yes, we have to pay attention to the thoughts that we take. Anyway, so I wanted to share that with you guys today because it is important. And it is a part of your health journey. So, yeah.
It is,
Katie,
yeah.
are you familiar with Dr. Emoto? His
No.
work?
Oh, yes,
He,
with the water. I think you know about it, Katie.
Okay, maybe I just don't recognize the name. Oh,
it's
you know what? Yes. You know what, Cairenn? Yes. And Toni, yes, you are absolutely right. I am familiar with him.
yeah. And with attitude, people are told that all the time, think positive things, watch your inner dialogue, um, you know, how you manifest, through visualization, your imagination and all of this. And they hear that all the time. I don't know that they necessarily believe it.
Right.
What this person did, the lupus patient, or she began to understand that her body was not having a health crisis. She was having a healing crisis, so she completely changed her focus around to, I'm not sick. My body is trying to heal this, you know? So, and also, she began to get that separation between my body and is experiencing anxiety and fear. I don't have to indulge it. And what she did with her son one day after a particularly stressful situation, is they went out in the car, and she likes to get out in nature and hug trees and, really ground and everything. I mean, she's an amazing woman. All I've done is hold her hand. She's done all the work on this. But she got out with her son, and they started telling jokes and laugh therapy. And they were laughing so hard. She said they had, tears, but she said she felt so much better. And so did her son, because he's a very sensitive and artistic and talented child. They both are. And he's been very worried and concerned about his mother. And I think, honestly, I think he's a bit empath. I think he's taking on physically some of her anxiety. And I'm not too worried about it. As she heals, he'll heal. He's only, I think, 9 still. But that was amazing. And that's when everything shifted for her. And she ended up in the hospital. Our time zones are very different. So, but they were telling her, oh, this condition you're suffering from right now, another diagnosis, was because of the pain meds. And then someone else had come in and offer her pain meds. And when they brought her something to eat, it was a white bread processed cheese sandwich. I mean, and she was laughing about, we were making jokes that, honey, you're in the insane asylum, and but she was taking her own food to the hospital and doctoring, food. But it was that whole mental turnaround. And that's when things started going her way. When she made that shift, I'm not sick. I'm not having a health crisis. I'm having a healing crisis. My body is working to heal my body. And then she could support it. Everything changed.
Yeah, that happened to me too. I sometimes I said I'm my own worst enemy, and always these dark thoughts, getting out of bed, and it's like, oh my God, it's even worse than it was yesterday. And I had to consciously change these thoughts by putting in something positive. If it was worse, and it's like my body is healing, but any other thoughts, I always had dark thoughts, and my mind can go a mile a minute, which can be very tiring. And so I just kept saying it out loud, replacing all the dark thoughts. And you know what? After a while, I didn't even realize I didn't have them anymore. They were just gone. And it's such a simple, simple thing to do. And it may sound really childish, but a lot of people have this. A lot of people, it has to do with fear. It has to do with the whole indoctrination about what is going on, and not understanding. And yeah, the fear. It's absolutely the fear. I do want to go. We are already a little over the hour, and I think we can talk way longer than what we've been doing now. So we're going to do this again someday. I would like to go into the part of with the fruit, that the taste is so bad. I live in Florida, and I can tell you the fruit is just as tasteless here as it is everywhere else. The only thing that I had was watermelons who were seedless and not organic, and actually they tasted as they should. So I was happily surprised with that. What else do I eat? It's probably apples and grapes and oranges. If, and that's a big if, I can find good tasting oranges. And that has been a challenge now for over a year. And I'm surrounded here by orange groves. This whole area, it's orange groves everywhere. They are used in the orange industry. They are not sold. They probably don't taste well anyway. And our oranges come from California. The bananas come from, I don't know, Ecuador, I think. And sometimes we even have bad tasting bananas. I had beautiful looking apples from Costco, and all packed in a box separately. In a box, it was must be good. And I was like, my husband, they were like, well, they're organic. We just washed them and they can be juiced. And I started scratching off to see if there was any wax on it, because I felt they needed more than just, washing in a bit of water. And there was this black crud coming off. And we looked on the box, and it said that it was protected with something that comes from roaches. I forgot the name, and I would have to see the box again, and we threw it out. But I will try to remember what it was. There was no way we tried to scratch it off with a knife. And it was like, we're putting this in our body, and our body cannot handle that at all. So
Where did you buy those, Toni?
Costco.
Oh, wow.
It is not
That's
only
scary.
Costco, it is any other health food store. You can look on it and see what it is protected by, and this was organic. And all the apples look perfect, It's like you don't even want to have a completely perfect looking apple, but and I know how wax looks when you scratch it off. This was not wax. And then we looked on the box, and it was like, oh my gosh, and it happens to avocados, to oranges. We had oranges, same thing, organic oranges. So, be aware of that. And so now the next time when I juice my apples, it will be without the peel. I will start peeling it off. It is what it is. I stick with only very few type of fruits. And I had some mangoes, organic mangoes, barely any taste. So I wait for my own mangoes to ripen. But I'm lucky that I have a tree, even though it's a small tree. But we expect that we think we need a huge variety of fruits, to get all the nutrition that we need. And I do hear people asking, like, which fruit has, which vitamin and mineral and how much is it, so I can check it out and then, put it all together so I'm sure that I get my minerals and vitamins and calories. Your body doesn't work that way. Your body doesn't calculate what is coming in. And nobody can really say what exactly it is, what you need. I mean, this is all, I see it all as a scam, but that's just me. Another point, let me see, we were about the veggies. Oh yeah, you guys were talking about community. And like in the Netherlands, there is no community. I think most of you who are listening here, and for the newbies, I do want to point it out. A year ago, I started to set up a social platform that is called Garden of Eden.social. It is not on Facebook, it is its own website, and I am the one controlling it. There is no anything or anybody who can say, oh, you cannot have that on there. That's not happening there. You have to register to become a member. When you put in your location, you don't have to put in your address. You can just put in your town. Like I am living in Bartow, Florida, so that is in there. Then when you would click on members and you click on the map, you can see how many people on that website are in your area. And Katie knows, and probably some other people too. In the past, I made the same thing for a freaksenseworld.com, which is now helloworld.com. But there were even people who met and they even got married. So we have the opportunity to set up communities in our own area. But it is, I cannot make the members. It's you guys who have to do that. If you are a member, you can invite people that you already know. They can invite people. So what I'm saying is you can actually build your own local community there. Yes, we are online. Yes, we are all over the world. But if you see that people that you may not even be aware of and you don't know, they are in your area, and this is where you can start. You connect with them, ask if they're interested. You do a potluck together. This has happened in Florida. There are several raw vegan potlucks every month here, and this is how you start your own little community. And then maybe you can figure out, you buy together a small piece of land, or you start working with a farmer who is willing to put part of his land towards organic fruit farming. So
Oh dear, we lost
I think we
Toni.
lost Toni, Katie.
We did.
It said recording stopped and then she disappeared from my screen.
Yes.
I
Anyway,
imagine she'll be back in a moment. Do you have anything you want to throw in about what she was talking about with building community?
well, I think everything has stopped recording. Like I don't think we're live anymore on Facebook either.
Okay, it says preparing live stream. So yeah, we may be totally offline.
Yeah.
We'll see if she ends it there or if she is able to get back on and close out. Where do you live, Katie? Or what state?
I live in South Dakota, so I'm just trying to see if this is.
That's right. You said South Dakota. Yeah, I'm in North Carolina, Western North Carolina.
Okay.
Ends it there, or if she is able to get back on and close out. Okay, I'm going to hit admit here. There we go.
Okay, yes. You know what? We are still live on the on YouTube. So I'm wondering, how do we close this out?
Toni, your phone is muted, but I do see you up now, and I think somehow this made me the moderator. So if you can unmute.
I'm
There we
unmuted
go.
now. My computer crashed. And
Okay.
so I am here now on my phone. I didn't even know that was possible. And I've never been here on my phone.
Well, good tech job. That could have taken me all day to figure out I could have reconnected with my phone. So good job.
Well, I just clicked on the invite link and apparently it's working. Yeah. But guys, I hope you could still hear the part what I was explaining about Garden of Eden.social. And we together, we can make something out of that. All the options are there. And I put information there. I have a blog there about health. People who have something to share can have their own group where they want to put whatever information there that is actually for everyone to see. So it has a lot of options, and we can make this a great thing. And I think it is so important to build communities local. Not only on the internet. The internet someday may not even be here anymore. We need this local too.
Yeah, I was going to say, get online. If you're not doing it already, find out where your local farmers markets or tailgate markets are. I'm fortunate where I live that I've got 3 or 4 really good tailgate markets. And, I go out there each week. I've been getting to know the different farmers, find out if they have farm stands that I can go to on off market days. I've been asking them questions about how they grow, and what their practices are, and I've been able to find a few growers that are organic. I don't care if they're certified, that just makes the price higher, but find their growing practices and some really good quality produce. And in the summer we get non-sprayed apples. They look like apples used to. They're a little bit oddly shaped, and they're have different you can tell they're not sprayed with wax or coated or anything. So yeah, those local growers and they need support. They need a lot of support.
Yes, absolutely. That is what we have been doing. For some, we have to drive 2 hours if we want to get there. I found on our farmers market here, there's only one grower, and she's mostly about greens, so mostly vegetables. I have been looking in the meantime how I can stop the recording of this, and I don't have access to that, so I absolutely don't know. Maybe it happens when I just leave the chat, and maybe it still keeps recording forever and ever. Well, thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I look at my black screen and it's like, oh my God, my computer broke. It's
I
it's
think
the only
when
one
Katie and I log off, it will just stop recording. Once we close Zoom, it will just stop. So
okay. Okay, we'll see how it goes. I hope I'll be here again next week by phone or a new computer. Who knows? And thanks all for being here. Thank you, Cairenn. I love you. For being here. Katie, same thing. Love you too. And till the next time.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and Katie too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cairenn. And I hope that you will be back on the show because I would love to ask you a couple of questions about your journey and how you decided to become a Dr. Morse practitioner. So anyways, thank you so much. Love everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.